Hey guys, today I am bringing you my long overdue review of A World of Ice and Fire. Now, obviously this book was released like in October, and I could have gotten it on the Kindle app, but it's not the same. This is a book you have to have the hardcover for, and so I was hoping I asked for it for Christmas, and I actually got it, and I've, this is, yeah, I just freaking loved it, and I sat down and I read a few pages every morning because there's so much information. It's just like, whoa, I was taking it all in. Though once I got to the Targaryens, I kind of like was addicted and I couldn't stop reading, but yeah, okay, first of all, my main point, my favorite part of this book, I mean, it's beautiful, there's so much awesome, interesting information, but my favorite part of the book would have to be the illustrations. Just like, I could spend several minutes just looking at the drawings, like in the first page, there's this gorgeous drawing of Dragonstone, if you can, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, but anyways, I spent like several minutes just looking at this drawing. It's so beautiful, so detailed. Like honestly, and there are like other pictures of it, but I feel like that and the front of the castle has obviously it's the Targaryens. The sea is the Targaryens, like the heir to whenever there's an heir during the Targaryens' reign, they were called the Prince of Dragonstone. And yeah, though if I was arriving at that palace at night, it'd probably kind of freak me out because of that big dragon, you know. But anyways, and they're just like there are so many beautiful, beautiful illustrations. They're beautiful. That's all I want to look at, like sometimes. But yeah, okay. And I guess you could say they're like four like big sections, like big chunks of the book. There's the basically before Aegon's conquering all that, like the Dawn Age, the Age of Heroes, the time where there were just the children of the forest and the giants, which I learned about. It was really interesting, and yeah. And then there's the Targaryens, like all the Targaryens kings, and almost one queen. I'll get more into that later. But yeah, crap. Yeah. And then after the Targaryen rule, there's one for there's a section of just all the seven kingdoms. Technically, I mean, there are seven kingdoms, but the Riverlands, but like the Tullys and the Lannisters kind of share the same like country, kingdom. Obviously we know the Tullys, they get the Riverlands, and the Lannisters get the Westerlands. And yeah, and then the last big chunk of the book is everything, the outside world, like Pentos, Essos, and a bunch of other lands which were very interesting. Like there was this one particular land, this and these people, they're like a head shorter than everyone else, and they have like cone heads. Like the first few years of their life, they tie a thick leather strip on their head, and that's what they wear. And then once it's off, their heads are shaped like cones. And then the women, they are completely bald, but the men have a strip of hair on the back. That was like, whoa. And I have to say, of like all the seven, yeah, so I'm going to start with the outside world because obviously I'm most interested in Westeros and all the things that go around there. But the outside world is very, very interesting. Though I have to say, out of all the things I learned, my favorites were to learn about, not like Essos and Pentos, those are all interesting, like the free cities, but out of the cities I didn't know about, I would have to say my favorites are the Yi Ti, and Lang. Like apparently because like Yi Ti or Yai Tai is kind of like a fabled land. It's like they don't know if it's real or not, but there are plenty of stories like the emperors, the first emperors, like the Gold Emperor, the Silver Emperor, like those emperors, they lived for like reigned for thousands of years, and then their heirs like ruled for like 1,000 or so years, and then the heirs after them only a few hundred years, and then like each reign after that was shorter and more, more troubled. So yeah, that was very interesting. And like Yai Tai and Lang, they're definitely the Asian cultures, which I didn't wonder, but then when I read about it, I'm like, huh, because I haven't really seen anybody Asian in Westeros. So I guess, because they have, so definitely inspired by, like, China and Japan and, like, the Asian cultures and all that. But yeah, so I really liked learning about the outside world. And then the Seven Kingdoms, it was interesting, though. I have to say, the kingdom I was, like, least interested about. It was still very interesting, like, the Iron Islands, because I don't like the Greyjoys. I mean, Theon I don't hate him anymore. I'm just like, but I'm not a huge fan of him, but I'm done hating him. I'm done being mad at him. Like, he's been through so much. It's like he got castrated and all that. It's just like, he's been through enough. He doesn't deserve my hate anymore. So yeah. But yeah, the Iron Islands, it was very, very interesting. Don't get me wrong, but that was the one I just wanted to get through really fast because I don't like the Greyjoys. I'm just like, yeah. But of course, my favorite to learn about, I liked learning about all of them. I liked learning about the North, but my absolute favorites were definitely Dorne and, surprisingly, the Westerlands, like the Lannisters. Learning about them, like, I was like, whoa. Learning about them, it was so interesting, especially like Nymeria Martell. Not Martell, Princess Nymeria, and then her marriage to Mors Martell. And then I learned that the Martells have only ruled Dorne for 700 years compared to the other lords, though. The Tyrells and the Greyjoys and the Baratheons, they only ruled for like 300 years, but the Aarons and the Starks and the Lannisters, they ruled for like thousands of years. Like, so it was interesting to see. Very interesting, but yeah. And now it's like, but I've read, obviously, about the conquest, and it's like, now that I know, obviously we know that, Dorne wasn't completely conquered, and did it not until about, nearly 200 years later when Daeron II, married Mariah Martell, and then his sister Daenerys married, Prince Meryn Martell, so yeah. And that was in, like, around 170 AL and all that, and afterwards, so yeah, it was like over 150 years later. So it was basically nearly 200 years until like they were like Dorne joined the Seven Kingdom, but it still retained some of its independence, But yeah, but I was very happy to learn that Aegon technically only conquered like a few of the kingdom. Like, he conquered most of the kingdoms, but we know he didn't conquer Dorne, but he didn't really conquer the North. They, like, Torrhen Stark was the king at the time, and basically, he got his army ready. He was like, he prepared to defend himself, but he actually just bent the knee to Aegon. It's like Aegon and his sisters, and it's like he just gave his crown over. I'm like, I love the Starks even more. It's like, they weren't conquered. They just like, know what? They just gave over their crown. Yeah. Okay, I like that. But my absolute favorite thing to learn about were the Targaryens. Like, before I read about this and all that, I was like, whenever, like, there was a question of, like, Starks or Targaryens, or, I'm like, Starks, duh. And the Starks are still my favorite family. But now that I've learned about the Targaryens, I have to say, I freaking love the Targaryens, because before I was always like, oh, the only Targaryen left is Dany, and I love Dany, but she's been getting on my nerves lately, and I'm like, not, and then Viserys is just like, ugh. But yeah, but now I freaking love the Targaryens, with the exception of a few. I don't like Maegor the Cruel, obviously. Aegon II, Who else? Aegon the Unworthy and Aerys the Second, and then there are some crown princes that were jerk offs, but yeah. My favorite, I have to say, my favorite Targaryen like era to learn about. I mean, obviously, I love learning about Aegon the First and his sons, and Jaehaerys, the old Jaehaerys, who was like he reigned the longest. He reigned like over what, like 55 years. Like that's the longest Targaryen reign of in the 300 years they ruled, which really was like more like 283, 84 years. Because yeah, 283 years. But yeah, but my absolute favorite reign to learn about was Viserys the First into Aegon the Second. Even because because Viserys is like seeds, like this crap. Like his issue, that was the issue that began the whole Dance of Dragons war, which is freaking awesome to learn about. And the whole Dance of Dragons war was in Aegon the Second. And I have to say, the whole Dance of Dragon things did not need to happen, because obviously Viserys' first only surviving child from his first marriage, Rhaenyra, he made her his heir, the Princess of Dragonstone. Obviously, this is a time where the oldest son becomes king. Yeah, it's like, okay, if he, but the point is, Viserys made Rhaenyra his heir. So, obviously, usually his son Aegon would have become king after, but since he already made Rhaenyra his heir, the throne was rightfully hers, and then basically, because of Aegon II's freaking selfishness and his mother's, the biatch Alicent Hightower, basically, freaking so many Targaryens died. Let's see. On Rhaenyra's side, Rhaenyra died, her second husband Daemon, her three eldest sons, her daughter, Princess Rhaenys, the queen who never was, who else? So, and then on Aegon's the second side, frickin' hit both his sons, both his brothers, his sister, and he died about a year after the war ended, and his daughter died 2 years after that. And then I don't remember when Alicent died. I think maybe like 133 or 34 or 35. But yeah, basically because of his selfishness, that whole war happened, and it didn't need to happen. Rhaenyra was the heir, and honestly, if I had been at the Dance of Dragons, I would have definitely been a supporter of Rhaenyra, because it was her crown. She was the Princess of Dragonstone, It was hers, and yeah. Though that's my favorite thing to learn about, honestly, the Targaryens, but yeah. And I also really liked learning about Aegon III, and he was like this, I don't remember exactly what he was called, but he was definitely the really sad king, because he actually witnessed his mother being eaten by Aegon's the Second's dragon. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, most of the dragons died during the Dance with Dragons Civil War. I'm like, and there were only a few dragons left, and they all died out after that. It's like, yeah, I'm repeating myself, but that whole situation is very, very interesting, but it never needed to happen. But yeah, I love learning about Aegon the Third, and I love learning about his sons. His eldest son, Daeron the First. Like, there's an illustration of him. If you have the book, it's on page 87. There's an illustration of him, and I just stared at it for probably like 10 minutes because he was so beautiful. But yeah, I freaking loved learning about all these Targaryens. I mean, I loved learning about everything, but I loved learning about the Targaryens. And actually, there was after the Targaryens came each of the seven kingdoms, and there's actually a picture of young Tywin, and wow, even as a young man, he had that look on his face, like, oh yeah, I'm definitely better than you. Though, the thing is, he was way better than his father. if you have the book, the picture of Tywin, young Tywin, is on page 202. Yeah, he's actually very handsome. Definitely he had that Lannister look. Rip Tywin, sadly, he died at the end of season 4. I love Tywin. He was one of my favorite characters. But yeah, honestly, I really don't have anything else to say about this book. I mean, I might do videos about certain parts. Probably a lot of Targaryen kings and queens. I'll probably talk about those randomly whenever I feel like it. But yeah, but one more thing I have to say, like, obviously they're trying to make like movies, like Game of Thrones movies, and I have to say, like, not obviously the story we have is on television, but like of other parts, and I'm thinking, know what I want to see? I want to see a movie about the Dance with Dragons. Yeah, I want to start that. It can be like, but it has to be a long movie. Like, it has to be a 3-hour movie, 3-4-hour movie. Like, and it has to be, they probably should start like half an hour, so we see Viserys II, and and then like he can die, Viserys the First, and then he can die like 30 minutes into the movie, and then the war could officially start like 45 minutes into the movie, and it could last about, yeah, so basically it could be a 3-hour movie, but I want to see A Dance with Dragons on the big screen. Now, the thing is, the only problem is that they're going to have to make a lot of dragons, like a freaking lot of dragons, and they're going to have to get a lot of beautiful young actors and actresses, and they're going to have to make a lot of wigs, because most of the Targaryens have the long silver blonde hair, which is beautiful. I wish I had it, but I don't think it'd look right with my skin tone because I'm pretty pale. But yeah, but that's what I want to see. But the only thing is that I think if they're gonna make A Dance with Dragons into a movie, first of all they need to get a director who can handle fantasy, Peter Jackson, and they would have to get. I have to say, I think they would need to get the same like animators who like people who made Smaug in the Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug, and the first part of Battle of the Five Armies. They would have to get the same people who made that, and then they can they'll obviously change up the style of the dragons, but yeah, because Smaug was an incredible dragon, so like a fully realized dragon, so they would have to get probably those animators. But yeah, I want to see A Dance of Dragons on a movie. But if they don't do A Dance with Dragons, then I would like to see Aegon's Conquest. Aegon's Conquest or A Dance with Dragons. Like, though maybe Aegon's Conquest will be the right movie to start off with, and then a couple years later we could get A Dance with Dragons movie. But yeah, all in all, this is a very good book. If you love Game of Thrones, I highly recommend you to get this book. I mean, it's $50. It's $50. It's $50 because I got it from Barnes & Noble. I mean, I got it as a present, but the receipt was in there, so I knew it was from Barnes & Noble. In the USA, it's $50, but in Canada, it's $58. So if you have the extra money and you really love Game of Thrones and you're like needing something to keep you going, definitely get this book. It's well worth it. I would give this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's a perfect book, and it's beautiful, and just the illustrations alone are worth the price of buying this book. Like, there's like a gorgeous there are gorgeous drawings of all the castles in the Seven Kingdoms, like the big castles like Highgarden and the Eyrie and all that. It's beautiful, and there's lots of gorgeous pictures of the Targaryens. Like, there's this one picture of Rhaenyra Targaryen, like young, like in her teens. Beautiful. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. It's the best book I freaking love this book. I can't wait. And yeah, I actually I finished the book, but I've actually gone back and reading about the Targaryens again because I'm kind of obsessed with reading them because I'm trying to soak in all the information I can. But yeah, other than that, I highly recommend you get this book. Or if you know someone who happens to have this book, maybe borrow it for a couple weeks and read it, because trust me, you'll read through it. I mean, it's only like over 300. It's only like 300 some pages, and also there's at the end of the books, like the last pages of the books, there's actually uh there are 3 pages. There are pages of the Targaryen lineage, the Stark lineage, and the Lannister lineage. Though the Targaryen lineage is much more detailed, like, yeah, very detailed. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. It's 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely go buy it. It's amazing. I love it. You would love it, you know. And yeah. Other than that, I will be seeing The Boy Next Door tomorrow around 3 with my cousin. Honestly, I'm just gonna try to see a movie once a week, you know, because there's so many movies coming out. So yeah. And it was either this or Mordecai or Strange Music. And I thought this was the safest choice. And honestly, I know it's going to be bad, but I'm kind of looking forward to it because it could end up being a guilty pleasure movie. But yeah, other than that, I have nothing else for you guys. And just, yeah, see you guys later. Bye.